In this week's Parshios, in Matos-Masei, when we finally catch up to Eretz Yisrael here in the Galus, we're all going to be reading Masei together. We recount the story of Aaron HaKohen's death. We're initially introduced to the death of Aaron in its place in Chukas, but we're reminded of it in Masei, and again in Akev. Rashi points out when Aaron dies that with him go the Ananei HaKavod. So all the Mefarshim try to explain what was it about Aaron's characteristics that Bnei Yisrael were zoche to the Ananei HaKavod all these years that when Aaron died they left with him. What did Aaron do to bring the Ananei HaKavod and keep them there? So there are basically three approaches, and it's how we view the Kohen Gadol. There are two main approaches to how we view the Kohen Gadol, specifically Aaron. We know about Aaron HaKohen when he died that Vayivku kol b'nei Yisrael, that the men and the women cried for him and mourned for him, as opposed to just the men when Moshe died, because Aaron was an ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. He very much was the man who tried to keep the peace, as we spoke about last week, how he tried to bring out the best that is in all of us. However, we also associate Aaron very closely with the Avoda, with his connection with Hashem, a special connection. The Gra points out that the Avodas Yom Kippurim, where the Kohen Gadol was able to go lifnei v'lifnim, to go into the Kodesh Kodashim, to the Holy of Holies, through the process of the Korbanos of Yom Kippur, the Gra says that Aaron HaKohen, and only Aaron HaKohen, was able to perform these korbanos and this process and this ritual whenever he pleased, and he could go in lifnei v'lifnim, into the Holy of Holies, and have a special connection. As we know, ki be'anan eira'el ha'kaporet. So either it was the Avas Yisrael, the Achdus, that brought down the Ananei HaKavod, or perhaps it was the Avoda and the special relationship that Aaron was able to cultivate with Hashem that nobody else was able to replicate. And these are the two approaches of the Chasam Sofer. The Chasam Sofer says the Ananei HaKavod, were there to protect us and there to keep us together and have Avas Yisrael ben Adam l'chavero, which is why as soon as the Ananei HaKavod leave us and vanish, in comes Amalek, the source of sinna and kinna and all this negative emotions that come in and swoop into that void. When the Avas Yisrael leaves, that void is tried to be filled by Amalek. However, the Kli Yakar says the Ananei HaKavod were in the schus of, again, the Ananei HaKavod were something that represented a Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence in Am Yisrael, as we know when it comes to the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. So the presence was a little bit diminished. However, there's a third approach, and that is that of the Netziv. The Netziv in Parshas Akev, he brings down, he says that really there were two Batei Din, one headed up by Moshe and one headed up by Aaron, and they had two different mahalchim. They had two different ways to get to their psak din. Moshe was the Melech HaPilpul and the Talmud and the Yud Gimel Midos HaTorah Nidresha Bahem, whereas Aaron excelled in the realm of Svara. And though Elazar HaKohen was Aaron's son, he was very much a Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu. And so with the death of Aaron, there was a certain mahalach that was left behind, that of the Svara. And that is what we were missing when Aaron died, and so the Ananei HaKavod left us. What's interesting is that each one of these, number one, is an approach. We know that we're told in Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Shimon says, Al Shosha Dvarim Ha'olam Homedes, Torah, Avoda, and Gmilus Chasadim, the three pillars upon which the world stands, the Torah, our Torah study, our Avoda, our Tefillah, Avoda Shebalev, and our Gmilus Chasadim, and our Ben Adam L'Chavero. And it's interesting that Aaron, according to these Mefarshim, was the complete person. You would think that a person who is so devoted to the masses might take a hit and might have to sacrifice on his relationship with God. And yet we're told that Aaron, we know that Aaron was the Ish HaAvoda. And a person who works on his avoda all the time, you would think maybe he's a little bit of an introvert, maybe he's not such a people person, and Aaron was able to be that, and have a relationship in his davening, his avoda, a relationship with his Gmilus Chasadim, and his relationship with Torah. I always thought that Mishnah in Avos each one of us, I believe, excels in one of these things. And one of these things we're okay at, and the final thing, one of the third things we suck at. We're not so great at, and that is one of those things that for ourselves we really have to work on. The thing that we're incredible at, that's what we have to give to the world, and we should work on becoming experts in our field, whether it's Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasadim. We are inclined to one of these things. We should obviously work on all three, but that thing that we are very weak at, that for ourselves, to develop that discipline, we should work on that, especially during this time period of the 3 weeks, where we're told, for one of these 3 reasons, that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Whether it was because Shelo Birchu Birchas HaTorah Tchila, we didn't say Birchas HaTorah, there's the Torah. We no longer have our ability to actually bring the Korbanos, to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a specific way. And of course, the Sinas Chinam, and that Ohev Shalom V'Rodev Shalom. Aaron checked all these boxes, and we're in that time where we have to at least focus on excelling on that one that we are automatically inclined towards being good at, and of course developing our discipline, and bringing up all 3 of them. Just on a note of the lack of the korbanos and a certain amount of avoda that's missing, we know that the tfilos were established as a substitute to the korbanos, but the Sfas Emes says something amazing at the beginning of this parsha when we talk about the nedarim. Each one of our vows to abstain from certain luxuries. We're told, Lo yachel dvaro, you shall not profane your word. It's an isser. You shall not go over your word. But the Sfas Emes is intrigued by the wording. Lo yachel, says Rashi, is like a lashon of chulin. The opposite of chulin is kudshim. Don't profane. Which means, michlal lav shomei hein, that would imply that not to make our words profane would mean that Me'ikar Adin, to start, they are holy, they are kodesh. And he says, the Sfas Emes says, what makes our lashon, our words, holy? What makes our words holy? So if you ask a scientist, they might tell you that man, as compared to beast, we have a certain cognitive, constructive, intelligent, creative form of communication beyond the primal forms. But the Sfas Emes says no. Based on a very famous unclos in the beginning of Parshas, we're told Vayipach be'apav nishmas chayim, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu breathed life into us, breathed on neshama, it was through breath. And what was that? Vayipach be'apav nishmas chayim, vayhi adam lenefesh chaya, says the unclos, l'ruach mamalola, to a speaking being. What makes our speech holy is the fact that we speak by virtue of breathing. That is how our vocal cords work. I'm speaking right now by expending breath. And that breath is godliness. And so every word we speak beyond just tefillah is one of kedusha. So again, for me personally, I feel like I excel in the Torah, and my Gemilas Chasadim might be my weakest, and my avoda is okay. But every word we speak, we have that opportunity. Lo yechel dvaro, we have an opportunity to speak kedusha. You hear some that this Tisha B'Av should be one of celebration and rejoicement. So we should bring Mashiach forward. Good Shabbos.